All right, everybody, excited to have Darby Greenwell with me today from the Seattle, Washington area. She's the VP of Advanced Analytics for iSpot TV. She's also a Shield Maiden grad, and if you're watching this on YouTube, which you're probably not because no one really does, but someday when I'm famous, they probably will. So, but yeah, no, I have my Shield Maiden shirt on, and we got a big class of Shield Maiden women coming through in a week or so, 19 women. But I just personally met Darby, well, when was it? July. And we had talked first on the phone probably months before that. But I've enjoyed being a part of Darby's life and was excited when she said she would come on and be a guest for the show. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Nate. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and so, you've listened to the show before. I always like to start off. What comes to mind for you when you think of or when you hear championship leadership?
Yeah, great question. And I love how you say that every time you ask this, you get a different answer. So hopefully right. I can tell you something different. A lot of times I hear people talk about an individual, right, that possesses a certain characteristics, but I actually think it could be a group of people as well that come together to deliver championship leadership. I think that might be part of it too. Like, leaders should know how to work with other leaders to create an experience. And really, championship leadership to me means, someone or a group of people that can be very clear about a goal they're trying to achieve. And then, as we talk about in immersion, like, they know the steps, they know how to be committed, they know how to get a group of people on board with them and really feeling like it's something worthwhile for them, not just for themselves, but for the people around them that are trying to achieve the same goal. They know how to make that happen, right? And then through the course of trying to achieve that goal, it's inevitable that something goes wrong. And I think championship leaders know how to course correct. Not by saying, you did this wrong, you need to fix it, but by saying, this is like making it really make sense for the person who needs to course correct or the group that needs to course correct. So it's that balance of confidence and empathy and really getting to know the people you need to motivate.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so I'm a fan of the NFL, right? And
yeah,
the Packers played. I'm a Packer fan. I grew up in Wisconsin, and they won, by the way. They beat the Bears. And
nice.
But one of the players that they brought in as a free agent last night, he was talking, and it's a very similar message to what you were just saying and what we talk about inside of immersion as well. As he's like, as long as we can get all of the guys on the field, on the team, to do their job and to come together as one, like, we're gonna be great, right?
Yeah.
And it's taking that group and really coming together as one. If you can come together as one, you're stronger, you can go further, you could go faster, and you win championships that way. And it just really stuck out to me last night, because that's been a message that's been definitely one top of mind for us and what we do too. Who are some of the championship leaders that come to mind for you that maybe fit that definition that you just gave us?
Yeah, there's a couple types, I guess, for me in the business world. Being a female, ladies like Sheryl Sandberg and Melinda Gates, who here in Seattle, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I mean, is big worldwide, but she's obviously a very big name here in Seattle.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Very prolific female leader, has done a lot of great work. And then, I'm a big sports fan as well. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, unfortunately. Actually, fortunately.
Yeah, that's right. I think they're going to be all right. And they have a lot of, not to digress here, but they have a lot of the Packers organization in their front office now. So.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. I hope to see some championship leadership in Cleveland in the near future.
Yeah.
But, I think of other sports leaders like Danica Patrick, for me, as a female who sort of bucked the trend in sports, and the Williams sisters. I mean, I don't love tennis, but I love what they've done. They've been big names in the sports industry. Yeah. And of course, I'm a big football fan too. So I've read about Nick Saban and Urban Meyer, of course, watching those guys, like you can't deny their leadership.
Yeah, incredible leaders. And so tell me, what, like, you're in a leadership position, obviously inside of this company that you're with, iSpot TV. And what's been the journey for you? Like, how did you get to where you are today? Yeah, kind of paint us that path of progression from where you started, I guess, in life, however far you'd want to go back to where you're at today with this company and building a very successful company, kind of a startup phase. I believe I've heard you say that before. So
yeah, I think we're a teenage startup now.
Yeah.
We're about 200 people.
Yeah, that's
a fair term. So yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I didn't run off to college thinking I wanted to be an economist. I'm sure somebody does, but
what did you want to do? What did you want to be?
I mean, I was always an athlete in high school, and I really loved sports, as I just was talking about. So I wanted to be in sports medicine, right? I wanted to be, work with athletes and be a trainer or a physician. And I was a sports medicine major for probably 3.5 years in college.
Really?
And then, like, I had, you have certain prerequisites in college. So I had to take a business class, I think my third or fourth year in college, and I took economics. And it was a very natural subject for me for some reason. The whole concept of supply and demand, I'm like, all right, I got this. Yeah. And did really well in that class, which evidently was fairly rare for this professor that I had. And he approached me after I took this class. He's like, you ought to think about majoring in economics. Like, what? You're crazy. Like, yeah. And this was, 20 some odd years ago. And it wasn't like today you read about data science. Maybe you have come across that, or maybe you haven't, but in the business world, there's a lot of popularity around data science. There's a lot of money to be made potentially, but that was not the case when I was in school. It was, if you liked economics, you basically were going to become a professor. So I really wasn't really excited about that, but he did convince me to take another course. And I don't know, I really just loved it. And this one professor really challenged me to not just be, about the numbers, because, a lot of people will say, oh, economics, you're a numbers person, but that really wasn't it for me. It really became about helping people make decisions, right? Everybody every day makes decisions based on data, based on emotion, based on past experience. And that really started to fascinate me. And he helped me understand that that's really what economics was about, was understanding what resources you have and trying to make decisions based on that. And that applies everywhere, right? Like, it applies to when you decide to leave for work in the morning, right? Which now you have a lot more data available to help you make those kinds of decisions. It's just a simple example, but so I just kept taking economics classes, and I really loved it. So I decided that that's what I wanted to do. I knew I needed a graduate degree, so I went on for that. And then, I 22 years later, like, this is now what I keep doing. And I just love the fact that I can apply this logic to any sort of number of problems in the world, really. I know that sounds very idealistic, but it's just, I really see that you can apply this kind of thing anywhere. So I'm just fascinated by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, so you went to grad school for this, like you switched paths, and like, what brought, like, how did you get to where you are today? Like, where did you start out? Like, what's been that journey since then?
Sure. So out of college, I worked for a couple companies. I worked for Talbot's, the clothing store, and I worked for Humana Healthcare. And I was a statistician, basically, for a couple different companies. So I sat behind a desk, and I would do mathematical analysis for different problem sets in a couple different industries. I moved to Seattle about 17 years ago for a job with REI, the outdoor,
Yeah.
because I just love that brand. And there was an opportunity to work with them. Similar thing, I was helping them build statistical models. And I realized when I got here pretty quickly that I really didn't want to sit behind a computer all the time. What I really love to do is to help analytics make sense for people. So I joined a consulting firm not long after I came to Seattle and realized that's what I really loved. I love to build teams. I actually love the people aspect of analytics. I remember my professor telling me that I had a rare skill in college, that I knew numbers, but I could also talk about it, right? And I like to make it, entertaining is not the right word, because who says economics is entertaining, but that was really my goal. So I worked for a consulting firm for a while. I actually got a turning point in my career. I got a phone call I was about 6 weeks back from my second maternity leave, and got a phone call from a recruiter to join a really small startup. And I didn't know how small at the time, but the founders lived in Atlanta and they had landed a contract in Seattle and just couldn't fly out every week. And I ended up talking to the CEO, really liked him, really good guy. He's ended up being a great mentor for me and a friend. His name is Will Hakes. And so I decided to join his company and help him build his business here on the West Coast. And so I joined when there was about 5 people in this company, and it was really crazy, but helped build up the company. And we ended up selling that company to KPMG a couple of years later. So at that point, I transitioned and came here to iSpot, and yeah.
Yeah, I know you talk, if I think of like analytics or numbers and people involved in that I don't necessarily think of outgoing and like personable, right? I don't know. I just, not the first thing that comes to mind. And so, yeah, going back to kind of what that college professor told you, of this unique ability that you have to have the skill sets of that, but also to be able to really be able to communicate what that really means, and to have that personality back behind it. And to see, obviously I've gotten to know you and the journey that you're on, and the course that you're on inside of the company, and some of the things that you get to do and enjoy. You're going out traveling, actually part of like sales, presentations and meetings and appointments, and with potential prospects, clients. And so talk to that, because, if you think of a championship leader, right, most are not one-dimensional. And definitely communication is probably one of those characteristics that would have to be high up on the list in my mind as a true championship leader. So, talk about that and how you've enjoyed to maybe connect those two pieces a little bit, and how that's really helped you to continue to be more of a leader, because I know that is something that you are looking to take on more of, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, when I started here at iSpot, I took over a team of fantastic analysts, and they're doing such great work. And what I saw happening, that the CEO here, Sean Mueller, saw happening as well, was that we would produce a piece of analytics and it would be, just the numbers. And without someone to help carry that message to somebody at a huge brand, right? And we're talking, our clients are people who spend millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on TV advertising every year. There's not a small amount of money in this industry.
Yeah, right.
And, and they're looking at a bunch of numbers that say, this network is delivering you, is not delivering you a high number of eyeballs on your advertisement. Well,
and they're making big decisions based off of you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you just sort of send over an Excel spreadsheet that, everybody's looked at Excel spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
You open it up, there's always this, whoa.
Yeah.
What is that thing?
Yeah.
And So it really we call it the interpretation layer, right? Or this gathering insights. And we talked about this in immersion too, right? Like there are data points and then there's insights and there's actions, right? If you just stop at, oh, here's some interesting data points for you. Well, great, thanks a lot. I don't really know how to, I have a decision-making process. I have to go talk to my CEO. I have 30 seconds with, this person to tell them my recommendation, not just a data point.
Yeah.
So it's hugely important to know how to take that data and make it make sense for executives at huge brands that make a lot of decisions. I mean, think about the Super Bowl, right? You can spend $50 million on one 30-second advertisement, which is crazy. So people really need to know if that money is paying off. So, I knew that the team I had to build was not just these technical experts, but people who know how to take that technical information and make it make sense. And so really, it's you can walk a fine line. Those people are really hard to find. It's a really important balance.
I'd imagine you have to continue to almost communicate that too, or talk and train on those conversations, right? Like, and is that something that is that a conversation that you have often with your team?
Absolutely. The concept of critical thinking in analytics is a skill set that is easily forgotten about. It's not really taught. A lot of people go into this field for the fact that they can focus on technical things and don't have to be personable, don't have to be someone that can stand up and present and talk to people. But that's something we talk about all the time, right? It's just emotional intelligence in the field of analytics. It's something I talk about quite a bit, and it's been really important to me as I build teams. And I certainly find that is a recipe for success in applying analytics to any industry.
It's such a more attractive team when you have those added skill sets, right? I mean, just when you're in that business, I'm sure it's cutthroat, but there's these companies are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising, so they're not going to be casual with who they bring in to trust in the numbers. And so, yeah, to be able to have that is key for sure. So I'm thinking, like, so are you watching the Super Bowl, and like, are there companies that you're like, yep, they base this ad off of our numbers, and like that brings a whole new level to like Super Bowl entertainment on the weekends?
Oh yeah. Super Bowl is probably the biggest day of the year for us here at ISPAD. We have everybody's here watching the Super Bowl.
Oh, really?
It's a big deal. Yeah, we have a whole team of people that are just watching the ads.
I bet.
And yeah, at the end of the day, we publish lists of, and rankings of the best Super Bowl advertisements, and those lists are carried around in lots of publications, and that's based on our analytics. So
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, like, so how do you take what you do professionally, and how do you carry that over into, whether it's inside of your home? And I'm sure, like, if you're married to a therapist, you don't want to be talked to as are you talking to me professionally right now as my spouse, or are you talking to me as my spouse? Like, from that standpoint. But like, yeah, how does it carry over for you? Because you do talk about, there's the numbers that you decipher them, and like there's a lot of carryover and flow into decisions we make on a daily basis. You talked about that earlier. But yeah, how do you take that and really apply it into, physicality, relationally, just in the other areas of your life?
Well, I mean, yes, you're right. So I don't go home and say, well, probability says that.
The percentage here.
Doing chicken tonight.
I'm just picturing right now, like in one of those movies, you just have like percentages over everybody's head, and like chances of things that are going to happen fall off the table, or
Sure. Right. Exactly how it is. Yeah, but take it back to the fundamental concept of what I learned in school, which is risk and reward, or supply and demand, sort of the same thing, right? And I carry that concept around everywhere. I mean, you've gotten to know me a little bit, and we talked
Yeah.
about immersion. Like, I have a very analytical brain, so I do, when I'm working with my kids, I do I try to point out, when they're trying to figure out stuff that they want, like my younger son really wants a Nerf gun. Okay, you really want a Nerf gun? Well, this is what you're going to have to do and commit to get it. And this is the cost. And this is how much it actually costs, but this is what it's going to cost you in the meantime. Are you willing to do that for this reward? So, I apply that everywhere. You can take, again, take that concept everywhere. In working out, I definitely learned 5 or 6 years ago, I was really, like, I was always considered myself an athlete, and I kept that through my adult life. And I was waking up, 5:30 in the morning to do some pretty intense workouts, like, every day. And that started to come at a really big risk. Like, I would get home, at 5 o'clock, and man, I was ready to go to bed by like 7 p.m. and throw little kids in the mix, and they're waking up in the middle of the night. Like, I'm a total wreck.
Yeah, right.
So this reward that I thought that I was getting is not necessarily, the risk here is too high. So I do that a lot. I really try to consider a decision from all angles, I guess, in that manner.
Are you still in touch with the professor that's kind of gotten you into this track? Like, are you connected to him at all?
Yeah, actually I am. Yep. I haven't talked to him for probably 6 months or so, but I email him occasionally.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Just when you said that and the big decision that made and the impact that he had, I was just curious to know if you did, because maybe talk about that. Like, what's important? And obviously you've invested in yourself through the programs that we have with Immersion, Circle of Champions. So you definitely see the importance of that, but maybe talk to that a little bit of what is really that importance of having a coach or a mentor and different people in your life to help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, it's super important, and I've heard other people answer this question on your podcast and in lots of other situations. I don't really have like a mentor in my space that I can point to, but there have certainly been extremely important people throughout my life. I mean, my older brothers really are my key mentors in life. They're both business owners, and when I was younger, they really taught me this concept of, just keep going, right? Like, they never really gave up. It just seemed to me like they would just take the punches and then, keep going. And they also taught me this concept of less talk, more action. You've heard me say that a couple times, and that's really been central for me over the course of the years. And just to balance, what I'm out there talking about versus what I'm actually doing in my own life. And that same professor, like, I remember him talking to me about the importance of balance, of really getting your intellectual side balanced with what your life was. It's interesting, the time that I met him, he had gone through a divorce and, was talking to me about how he had sort of gotten inside of his own head through the course of his career. And he talked to me about how important that was. And that's been a big thing for me too. Like, I definitely decided when my boys were young that I really wanted this, you call it a balance, work-life balance. And sometimes I think that's a great phrase, and sometimes I think it's really terrible, but because it's all life.
Yeah, right.
But that's been really important to me, and I realized that the people that I have sort of escorted me through life and shown me the way have really brought me back to that. Like, I've always wanted balance between a number of different things, and the people that I've gravitated towards have had that, what I've seen as a nice, robust balance.
Yeah, balance. It's the elusive holy grail, right, of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that's a big conversation that some people say, and that there is no such thing as balance, and but I think the concept that like there is, you know, it doesn't have to mean that they're all perfectly equally balanced, right? But yeah, it's important for sure, you know, to keep ourselves in check and not to get overly weighted in one of those areas at the expense of the others. So
Yeah.
let's talk, you know, again, I like to ask this question is, but what's the big turning point for you inside of your life? Like, what's a moment that pops up in your head that could have very well had you on a different path or different trajectory had you decided to maybe go the route that everyone else likes to go, or that maybe the easier, the safer play versus the not popular one, right? The championship leader is always willing to take the
Yeah.
decisions that aren't necessarily the popular ones.
Yeah, definitely a couple times stand out to me. Actually, back to the time right after my second son was born, so about 9.5 years ago, right before I took that new job with the startup, there was, you know, I when I got back from maternity leave, for some reason, I was really felt energetic about working, which sounds really crazy now thinking back how exhausted I was.
Yeah.
I was really ready to make a big impact as a mom and as a career person. And so I went back to work and I took on some new projects. I said, I'm ready, you know, that give me something really good to work on. And I had this big project and there was a huge time crunch and we had to get some work done. I remember one night being up in the middle of the night with my son, like, you know, sitting in his rocker in his room. I've got him on one arm feeding him. And on my other arm is my laptop, you know, like trying to type with one hand and trying to get this project done. And, you know, I put my son back to bed and continued to work on this project for like another hour. It would have been really easy for me at that point to say, oh man, this sucks. Like, what am I doing to myself, right? Like, I don't want to work, or I'm going to get a nanny. But I definitely made a very deliberate decision that I wanted both of those things. And I knew that I could do it. I knew I didn't have to leave my kid at daycare all day long, you know, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You know, and similarly, I knew I didn't have to give up my career. So I knew I wanted both those things, and I was going to make that happen some way, somehow. So that was definitely a key point for me as a newer mom to continue working towards this goal.
Yeah, I think that's a big one too, because right, I hear, you know, often you'll hear the mom that did sacrifice their career for their children, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But sometimes
Absolutely
you'll
not.
hear that they wish they hadn't, or now they're at a place where they want to get back and they feel like because they did that it's almost like they can't because now they don't have the experience, or maybe it's like, you know, how things continue to grow and change in your industry and now you feel like you're like way behind, or whatever the reason might be. But the fact that because I think a lot of mothers in your place, and again, there's nothing, it's not right or wrong, it's not good or bad, but they've made the decision to you know, go all in, I guess you'd say, in their family, and because they didn't feel that they could do both. And you're like, no, we can do both. Like, we can do it, and I can still be a great mom and be present and be there, but yet still have a career.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of moms who, you know, and my choice point happened to be, right, mom career. That's a pretty classic one.
Yeah.
For females, but other people make huge decisions like that all the time. And I see lots of people deciding to take on, you know, multiple things. Moms who are working at home, holy cow, there's a lot of balance they're striking too. And
Yeah,
they
no doubt.
making those decisions to take those things on every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap this up, like, what are one or two things that you could leave with the listeners as we do that could really help them out?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, as you know, so I think two things really. Like, I definitely, you know, maybe it's partly the space that I'm in, being, you know, high tech and high growth, and there's a lot of stress in the situations that I see around me at work. And I see a lot of people forgetting to just have fun, and just remember, like, all right, you're a person that needs to just know who you are and know what you enjoy doing, and remember to do something for yourself and just relax every once in a while. Like, just have fun. That's a huge one for me in the world that I'm in. And I think secondly, I would say, like, there's this feeling, and I'm sure you know it, and a lot of people do, when you're taking a risk and you sort of feel like you're out on the edge. you might fall off. You might, like, someone might come and give you a hand, but you feel very awkward, and you're out there, like, trying to do something. And I guess I would say, like, that's good. Like, you're doing something right. Like, if you feel that feeling, that's a great thing. Like, hold on to that, learn from it, do it again, and really embrace that sort of feeling. Like, you just don't know. You're not alone there. Everybody else is there too, but just keep going.
Yeah, that's great advice, right? I mean, it's that's that feeling, a little bit uncomfortable feeling, nervous feeling, and also probably a little bit exciting at the same time too. And that's great advice to hang on to that and embrace that. It's almost like you're truly living, right? If you're in that place. So
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here and taking time. I know you are extremely busy and got a lot on your plate, so I really do appreciate you taking the time to be here, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Really appreciate what you're doing, sharing people's stories.
Yeah, have a great day.
Yeah, you too.